Good evening. Welcome to Eating the Elephant here on Facebook Live, where we talk about Hurricane Michael recovery, we talk about insurance issues, all the things that go along with that. We're on episode 51, so we've been at this since shortly after the storm, twice a week. I want to open up tonight by saying congratulations to graduates, particularly tonight. Bay High is graduating tonight, so if you're out there at Bay High's graduation, I hope you're enjoying being able to see the achievements of your teens. And last night we were fortunate enough to be able to see Jackie, our daughter, graduate from Arnold High School. So she graduated with merit, and so we're very proud of her. It was pretty cool to watch her walk the stage, and hope you guys are going to enjoy this season. It's been nice to see all these kids grow up and to do some great things, and I, for one, out of my two daughters, I'm looking to see really, really great things out of them. I think they're going to do terrific in life. I want to move directly to insurance stuff. I gave short shrift to condo association information last week, and I've had a couple of questions pop up this week. I wanted to be I want to be sort of top level. I don't want to get too far in the weeds with this. If you own a condominium unit, there is a condo owners association, obviously, and every condo owners association in the state of Florida is required to carry what's known as directors and officers insurance. Typically, this is at $1 million for most. And what that covers is bad acts, malfeasance, or simple negligence by the board of directors. And and this could be all kinds of different things. I don't want to get into too many specifics here, but say carrying the wrong kind of insurance, failure to carry insurance, failure to remit, say, rents to somewhere on time. If they make if they go through the process where you're assessed and they don't do that properly, they don't have proper notice of the meetings and things like that, then those kinds of things fall back on the board of directors. The reason I say this is if you're having real trouble, if your board is working actively against what you feel is your best interest, you have a place to go. You can find out who that insurance company is, contact the agent, and then once you contact the agent, you can either file a claim or you can at least get the process started. Sometimes that's enough to move people in a different direction. But I do want to stress, I don't think boards of directors and condo associations, by and large, misbehave. I think that's exceptionally rare. We've seen a lot of bad behavior after the hurricane from a lot of different places. I haven't seen it from condo association boards. What I would suggest to you is the first thing you need to do is try to be patient with folks. Number one, they're volunteers. They may have damage to their own units, to their own homes, if this is a secondary that they're renting or something. So they've got their own issues as well, and they're working for free on your behalf. So try to cut them a little slack, especially when you get to finer technical issues of insurance and finance and things such as that. Some folks that sometimes have the most time to donate to your condo association are the people with the least training in these kinds of issues. So if you can, step up a little bit to help, and help first before you start to complain. If you go to the board of your condo association with a problem, it'd be my suggestion that you try to go there with a solution as well, or a proposed solution, and see if you can help them in some way implement that solution. I would say that particularly if you have special expertise in, say, something like insurance, accounting, law, things like that, then volunteer your time there. It will certainly be to your benefit and to your neighbor's benefit as well. I posted earlier this week, the National Flood Insurance Program is going to go boom again. Congress has failed to reauthorize for the umpteenth time the National Flood Insurance Program. And until Congress gets back from their holiday recess, I don't remember ever getting 10 days off, by the way, for Memorial Day. Have you ever had that? I guess only elected officials. But when they get back, that's one of the first things that hopefully that they're going to vote on, along with our relief bill, and I'll get back to that again in a minute. But as of June 1st, I believe that's Friday, there will be no more new flood policies issued by the National Flood Insurance Program. They also will have to hold renewals. They won't be able to issue those. If you have a policy in force, it will stay in force. You don't have to worry. You don't have to get in a panic that they're canceling your insurance somehow on Friday. You just can't buy new coverage. So it may hold up some real estate closings for a few days, and it's probably going to be a little more than an inconvenience for some people. But it's just more... unfortunately, it's just more evidence that our federal government really isn't doing their job, in my opinion. So if you have specific questions about that, if you think it's going to affect you, affect a closing, something like that, if you're a realtor and you're concerned about things like this, then give us a call, and I'll be glad to tell you what we know. Like I said, I do think this is only going to be for a few days, and the problem I think we really are going to have with this is that The current sort of draft legislation only extends the period for this for a couple of weeks. So this battle we're having now where everything's about to blow up on us, we're going to have the same discussion, the same battle 2 more weeks out. And I don't know that Congress has ever done anything in a 2-week period of time. So what I would say is, as soon as the window opens up for flood insurance, if you have a real estate closing that is pending in the next 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, my advice would be to go ahead and secure flood insurance, even if it's before the closing and you have to waste money on 2 or 3 weeks before you own your property. It will keep you from holding up your closing. Now, if in principle it just makes you crazy to pay for insurance that you're not getting the benefit of, I certainly understand that, but be aware it may slow you down. You do have some other options, however. The private market has finally begun to respond and provide insurance. In other words, homeowners insurance companies generally are now providing flood insurance that's outside the National Flood Insurance Program and is not affected by that. There's some really good reasons to do this. You need to do your homework, you really do, because private flood insurance is not backed by the federal government. And so, but there are several things that you want to know. Number one, it's usually less expensive, almost always. Number two, in almost every single case, the coverage is much better. For instance, you get replacement cost coverage on a number of things. You get much higher limits available to you. And most homeowners companies that are providing this they're trying to provide this at the same limits of insurance that you have on your homeowner's policy. Now, for most of you, you're probably on a preferred risk program, preferred risk flood policy. That's $250,000 maximum on your home. As I think we've seen following Hurricane Michael, that doesn't always go as far as you want it to go. So you may want to have a higher limit available to you. The other thing you're going to have some advantages of there is you'll have a single adjuster. You'll have one insurance company to talk to about a wind and a flood loss. Say in a hurricane, if you have wind damage and you also have flood damage, you may be, particularly if you're in Mexico Beach, you may have the dueling adjuster problem where they're pointing at each other and saying, no, it's that guy, no, it's that guy. And you can avoid that. Finally, the other advantage that you've got with it is it can sometimes be done. Some insurance companies are doing this by a simple endorsement, meaning they simply attach a very brief endorsement to your actual homeowner's policy to include the peril of flood in your regular homeowner's policy. This has almost never been done before, and in the last couple of years it's gotten more prevalent. We sat the sidelines for a while in our agency. We wanted to make sure that the program developed really well and was financially secure with these insurance companies. They weren't going to jump in for a year and then jump back out. And by and large, we've seen good results. We have seen a couple of companies get in early and then decide to get out. You also need to be aware if you are in a special flood hazard area and you are grandfathered, you can look at that on your policy. It should say grandfathered yes or no on the front of your deck sheet. And if you're grandfathered, I would caution you not to make a change, even if it saves you money. Because if these programs blow up, if these private flood programs do eventually go away, you won't be able to go back to the National Flood Insurance Program at that lowered grandfathered rate. So be careful, talk to your agent, get some good advice, ask a lot of questions, and make sure you really understand the process before you make a selection. I spoke a little bit I guess it was on Sunday, and I posted on this as well. Now is the time. We all know what's coming up on June 1st. Again, we're not going to say it and think it into existence. But if you're going to make changes on your policy, this is the week to do it. You want to do it right here at the beginning of hurricane season instead of waiting until too late or too deep into hurricane season. One of the things I mentioned in particular was getting a flat deductible for windstorms. Some insurance companies are now offering, instead of a 2 or 3 or 5% wind deductible, which is pretty hefty, they're offering flat windstorm deductibles of $500 or $1,000. And I've got an example here of something that just came up. This was yesterday. We had someone call in, actually based on my post on Sunday, and they had a 2% wind deductible. It was about $4,000, and we changed them to a $500 deductible, and it cost them $91 a year. So to me, that's a very good buy. Those of you that like higher deductibles and you want to absolutely find a way to get your premiums down as low as you can, you don't want to undertake this. But if that 2 or 3 or 5% deductible really took a bite out of you after Hurricane Michael, this is something you might want to consider. And again, call your agent and ask what your options are. I want to move off of insurance just a little bit to general recovery, and particularly with social media and Facebook especially. I have found myself being much more engaged with people that I've previously disagreed with, and in many cases still disagree with. But I noticed there for a period of time, particularly February, March, it got it got a little bit crazy on Facebook on some of the groups, Hurricane Michael updates, Bay County, Florida after Hurricane Michael, 850 strong, places like that. And people were really chipping at each other pretty hard. And I've found that I've been able to find some common ground with people I never thought I would, with contractors that have a different position on things than I am, even, believe it or not, a couple of public adjusters and attorneys. I don't necessarily agree with them, and I haven't won all of them over, but it's been very interesting to talk to them and learn new things and learn what their perspective is and what their genuine concerns are instead of barking at each other across Facebook or across a desk. I've been particularly interested in the appraisal process recently because there are a number of people that are going to appraisal, and so I've spoken to some appraisers and umpires and things, and I'm much better appreciated. I've not had to sit through the appraisal process but once in my 25-year career, and I have to tell you, there are situations where appraisal is very compelling. And again, you're going to want to ask for some advice before you do that because appraisal tends to be binding. There are exceptions to that, but they're very few and they're very far between. So if you want the speed and the certainty of appraisal, that might be something to pursue. But again, it's binding, so be very, very careful. But the other thing that I've been able to do by engaging those that I disagree with and that we had maybe even barked at each other a little bit before, I've learned a lot. I really have. I've been surprised at how much I've been able to learn from people that I don't agree with, that just have a different perspective. And again, even though just because you learn something from someone doesn't mean you have to agree with their position. So what I would say is actively seek out people that disagree with you and find out what they're thinking. Number one, you may learn something new, and number two, you'll be better able to defend your opinions and your positions, and you're more likely to go and research actual facts. If you're challenged, you may try to go back and get some documentation, some backup. And that's going to be good for you too because you'll get a little more education there. We've talked over and over and over. Educate, advocate, and educate obviously is the first piece of the puzzle. Advocate, you want to advocate for yourself, keep your foot on the gas. You want to escalate when you need to, talk to a supervisor, a manager, a VP, and then you can mediate through the state CFO's office. Jimmy Petronas' office has been very effective. I do think they're getting a little more overloaded, and I think that's a little bit of an issue for them. But sort of on a tangent there, I'd like to remind everybody that there is a free event this Saturday. It's 10 to 12 at St. Dominic's Church, and it's the Florida Property and Casualty Insurance Fraud Task Force. It's mostly fraud investigators, law enforcement, people like that, and they're here strictly to deal with fraud and abuse and to educate you on how to recognize it. Many of you can recognize it very well because it's happened to you, and something about what to do about it. Well, what are your remedies? What are your options? And so if you want to come join us at St. Dominic's Church, it's not my event, so I don't know a great deal about it, but I'm very anxious to see what everybody has to say, and I'm very anxious to hear what the audience brings to the table and what problems they bring for us to maybe address and hopefully to solve. I think I'm going to close there. I'm a little under the weather, so I don't feel like I'm on my game tonight, but I do want to say one thing in closing, that we got huge, huge news this week, and for those of you that are local, you'll know what this means to Panama City. Cahall's is reopening Friday morning at 9 o'clock, so the chicken salad will flow like a river, I am sure. Chris Corden is, I tell you, he is so excited to get back open and serve Bay County. I know he's missed you guys, and I suspect the lines will be long, but his food is absolutely worth standing in those lines. So I encourage you to come out to Cahall's either Friday or over the weekend, and I hope we see you there. If we don't see you before then, we'll talk to you Sunday. Have a good week.